My name is Neil Horvick. I'm
Nicole.
We're members of the Scranton Region Antique Automobile Club of America. This is our 1929 Auburn. It's totally original. It's got a flathead 8-cylinder engine built in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. The company that built the engine, like Combing Motor Company, is actually still in business. They build engines for aviation now. The car itself was built in Auburn, Indiana. Auburn Motor Company was formed in 1900, and it was in business till the mid-30s when the Depression really softened the market for luxury cars, and they went out of business for that reason. The Auburn's only one of 6 of that model still in existence. When we bought the car, it was in pretty good mechanical condition. It still did need some work. It wasn't running at the time. It's got a brass era carburetor that's an updraft carburetor. They're a little bit tricky, so that had to be tuned quite a bit. We had the help of Dalton Garage doing that, plus some members of our car club. It wasn't too much work, but the worst part of the car when we bought it was the paint. It had original lacquer paint that was all cracked, so we repainted it in base coat, clear coat, and it's pretty well totally restored at this point. Runs well. The engine's just about 300 cubic inches. It's a long car. The wheelbase is 130 inches. Lots of room inside there. It's got shades like they had in the 20s. You pull shades down for privacy in the back. We figure it's pretty much like a work of art. The cars back then were handcrafted. No two were the same. They were put together by tradesmen working on them. No assembly lines for this type of car. And we bought it at an auction in Florida. We're surprised that it was at that auction. We saw it. A little bit of history, so we bought it. And as some of the other members say, we're just taking care of these cars at this point. We don't really own them, and hopefully the next owner someday will take good care of it. It's a piece of history. It's got a lot of lights on it. Back then in the 20s, the lighting wasn't that good. It's only a 6-volt battery, so lighting was not that powerful. So people, if they could afford it, put as many lights on the car as they could. So the 2 large lights are the typical headlights with high beams. The smaller lights below those are called pilot rays. They turn with the steering wheel and go in any direction you're driving in. Then a spotlight was added on the running board, so you can point that in another direction. And with all those lights, night driving wasn't too bad. Still better today, but at least it was acceptable. This car has a trunk rack. Before they actually had trunks, they had the rack with a trunk on it, because that's where you put your clothes. You tied the rack, you tied the trunk to the rack, and that's how you would travel. Then later on, they actually had the trunk as a part of the car. And there's an advertisement sitting on the rack, and this car cost $1,895 when it was new, and that was the price of a modest house. So if you were able to spend this much on a car when a Model A costs about $400 or $500, mostly the wealthy people own these cars.
Hubby was nice enough to give me credit when he said we got this car, but actually he was in Florida and I wasn't, and he actually emailed me the picture of it, and I told him that it looked like a hearse. It was so long, and I told him not to get it. So actually we acquired it despite my opinion of it, and now this is my favorite car of all the cars that we have. So happy that he didn't listen to me. Thanks, Hub.
The 1929 Auburn is the show car this year. It's our 46th annual show, and each year they pick a special car that represents some aspect of automotive history, and typically a car that's somewhat out of the ordinary. Last year we had a beautiful Corvette. I think it was a 62. We had very nice Fords. So we always try to pick something that people like and that represents automotive technology, how it advanced, and shows the craftsmanship of cars over the years.